Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Jesse Nyberg here. Today we're going to be talking about financial tips and just general advice around finances for designers, freelancers, and other types of creatives. If you enjoy this video, like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into it. So the first thing I wanted to talk about really is taxes, and I think that a lot of people as freelancers and as designers don't really know about that thing going into it. When I was in school, at least, they didn't really teach me a lot about taxes, whether it be high school, college, or anything like that. And when I was starting out, a lot of people, including myself, throughout high school and even throughout college, you have a normal job like a W-2 where you get money taxed. Depending on your state, you're taxed with the federal income and the state income. And then, at the end of the year, you may get a return because you overpaid in taxes. But what you don't realize when you're a freelancer sometimes is that you have to pay those taxes yourself. So if you're working on 1099 contracts or any type of freelance agreement like that, basically your normal employer will pay, the other 15% of your around 30% taxes. But when you're a freelancer, you have to pay that all yourself. So it's definitely I've seen a lot of people get into trouble with that because they get paid and they don't know that they need to be saving that money for taxes at the end of the year. So after this video or right now, research, what state you're in and what country, and see which bracket you're in, so you know how much you should be saving for taxes. But for me, for example, I live in California and we have one of the higher taxes in pretty much the whole country. So with my state and my income tax, I usually save around 30% just to be safe. And with what I'm making right now, that seems to work out fine. But in the future, if I make more money, I'm gonna have to move up that, because the more money you make, traditionally, the more you're going to get taxed. So I like the 30% thing though for now. That works for me. And that way I get that money. And what I do is, let's say I'm working on a project, I get paid $1,000 for that project, or $5,000, whatever. I'll get that 30%. I'll put it into a separate account or put it away. That way at the end of the year, when I'm doing my taxes, I know I have that money saved and I don't need to worry about trying to come up with that at the end of the year and front the bill to the government. For taxes also in general, I usually recommend using TurboTax when you're doing that stuff. They have a self-employed version or a freelance version. I forget exactly what it's called. And basically it allows you to go through all your different tax information, write-offs, and it's really helpful because a lot of that stuff's hard to figure out in the analog way, and they don't charge that much, and it's really worth it. My second piece of advice would be to value your time. So as you're going through your career, realize that your time has value, and the better you get as a designer and the higher your rates go up, you need to weigh your options of how long something would take, what time it's going to take up, and how much money you're getting. Put that all together and figure out if a project's worth it for you. You should be also increasing your rates as you go. As you get better, you should be increasing your rates. It's just like as if you were working as an employee at a job. As you progressed, as you moved up the ladder, you'd be getting increases in pay, hopefully. And when you're kind of weighing your options and seeing should I work on this project, don't let, the appeal of someone saying, we'll have future opportunities for you, or maybe you'll get exposure, or just things that aren't actually existing right now in the moment. You can't rely on those things to actually come to fruition. So don't let that be a factor in determining if you should work on a project or not. And I know we all get self-conscious and kind of insecure about work not coming in, or if I don't take this project, maybe I won't have any projects down the line, but that's not the case. And as long as you are confident in your design skills and know how to negotiate with clients and things, you shouldn't have an issue with that. So don't ever be afraid to turn things down out of fear of not getting projects in the future. Definitely value your time and your mental health. So one of the most important things to me in terms of my finances is budgeting. And I think everyone should have some kind of budget system in play within all their expenses. So what I try to do is try to figure out how much money I'm going to need each month for the set expenses that I have. And I usually put that into an Excel sheet or just have it memorized, written down in my Apple Notes. And that way I know whether I work on a project or I get paid from my employer, I know I need this X amount of money for rent, this much amount of money for utilities, this much for, Adobe and all the other bullshit subscriptions that I pay for. And basically I section those out every month, and I know don't touch that money for, like personal or just stuff for fun or food, whatever you want. I like to section it out that way. If I have an excess of money that month, or if I'm just meeting the amount that I need, I know that I have that stuff for those important items. So obviously I prioritize it by rent, utilities, food. Those are like the main three. I also like to plan, for good and bad months, because there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, especially as a freelance creative or as someone working a non-traditional type of employee job. So let's say you do your budget and you figure out, I need $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month to survive. For the sake of this, let's say $3,000. So you realize you need $3,000, right? But this month you made $5,000 and you're excited about that. But one thing I learned that was really important is don't increase your expenses every time your income goes up. And so what that means is, if you're always increasing your expenses every time your income goes up, you're still left over with the same amount of money to either spend or save each month. So if you make $5,000 that month and that's extra, put that towards the next month or put it away. That way, let's say that was March. Come October, it's a rough month, COVID, whatever's going on, you only make $2,000. You have that extra money in the bank and that safety net to help you from when things were going good. So basically, plan for the sunshine and the rain. So one really important thing that I learned about when I was this past year, when I was doing mostly freelance work, was business expenses and write-offs. So keep track of all the things that you buy that have anything to do related to business. For example, as a designer, I have my computer, all my subscriptions, all my electronics, lighting, all this stuff for YouTube, whatever it may be, right? I keep track of all that stuff. And then I use an Excel sheet. I'll show you it right here, and I will also link this in the description. It's pretty basic, but this is the way I keep track of things, I have, what it is, how I paid for it, how much it cost, the date, etc. And that way, when I come to do my taxes, it's super easy because I have it all figured out. And tax write-offs are huge. I wasn't clear on this stuff going into it, but this past few years, as I've been using, shout out TurboTax again, not sponsored, but they're just a hell of a good platform. So as I was using that, I realized you can write off so many things that I wasn't even clear of, even all these little subscriptions and things. So definitely go there, because let's say you owe $10,000 in taxes. I think that's what I owed, somewhere around that this past year. Got it all the way down to like $6,000 or $7,000 that I owed money on, because all these write-offs for all these big computer purchases, all the subscriptions, keyboards, all this stupid other design stuff that I buy, even books, furniture. You can even write off your office space. So we were all working from home for the most part over this past year. And you can actually write off a certain square footage of your home as your office. That way you can get money back on that. So I think it was like 100 and whatever square feet that I have in this room. And I was able to count that as an office, which I didn't know about until I started looking that stuff up. And that's the main thing I would want anyone to take away from this, is just do your research online. Hopefully you're watching this video to learn about some stuff like that, and just go to some other resources, because a lot of this stuff isn't really readily available to people, especially as a younger designer or freelance creative. You have to kind of seek it out yourself. It's one thing that I learned. Another really important thing is contracts and invoices. I made an entire video about contracts and invoices, so go check that out if you want to get more in depth. But the basic thing is always use contracts in all your projects and always keep track of your invoices. So like I've said in the past, I use a combination of my InDesign contract Wave apps for invoices, and then I export all that stuff as PDFs, save it into folders within each project, name it, and have it all ready to go. That way, when an employer sends you a 1099, which is basically a tax bill for when the end of the year, that shows that you worked for them and you have to pay taxes on that work. So they'll send that to you. And I think it's as long as the project was over $500, it's pretty much required, and you'll get it. You'll get those in the mail. You'll look through them the same way you would get like a W-2 or anything tax form. And then you'd input that information online or do however you're doing your taxes. And then you have the invoices and things to back it up, and you already know how much money you were saving for it, and you're good to go. This last one to me is something that I've been dabbling in quite a bit the last few years, and I think is really important. It's stocks and shares. So basically, at least for me as a freelancer and as a full-time designer, I've had both gigs throughout my life, but I think a lot of freelance creatives aren't going to really have a steady 401k throughout, their careers. So one thing I would definitely recommend checking out is a Roth IRA. I use Vanguard. You can go check the link in the description, and that's what I use. And what a Roth IRA is basically an investment account that has a lot more tax advantages than a normal investment account. And what you can do with it is invest in mutual funds, bonds, all kinds of things. In the Roth IRA, what it is it's taxed as it goes in. So you're already paying money that you got rather than it coming straight out of your paycheck pre-taxed. So when you're at the end of the time and you want to take the money out, like retirement, most of these are super long term. So you want to set this up with money you're not going to need within the next, 20 years, 30 years. Once you take the money out, it was already taxed. So you're getting it all. A normal IRA, it's going out of your paycheck. So you're not having to pay tax on it. And then when you pull it out later, it's going to be taxed. And for me, I prefer the inverse. So I like it knowing later I won't be taxed. What's cool about this is what I do, and this is not financial advice, but something that I think that is a good way to do it is I invest in the S&P 500, which is basically they have a mutual fund that tracks that, which is basically the top 500 companies in the United States, and they have different versions for the different countries. But pretty much tracks like the best companies in the business. And it's pretty much had an insanely positive trend over the last 50 years. You're going to get an average of around 8 to 10% returns on the money. So it's pretty awesome. And with compound interest and all this stuff, it really helps out with retirement. And let's say you put 10,000 and you make 10% off that. Now you have 11,000. The next year, that 11,000 is going to get 10%. It's going to be 1,100 you're getting. So it just compounds, and you also get paid dividends, which are basically small things that the companies pay you for investing in them. And it's pretty awesome because a lot of people don't know about this stuff, and I found out about it within the last few years. You can contribute $6,000 a year to the Roth IRA, and that's really cool, and that can give you a really big nest egg into your retirement. If you invest in this for 20, 30 years, you're likely to be pretty well off by the time you're ready to call it quits. And then if you've already done your max and you want to do some normal, stock or shares trading, a beginner app that I recommend is Robinhood. You can check that below and sign up there. What's good about Robinhood is it's really easy UI. It's very simple, and it's a good beginner app, to get your feet wet into investing. What I would recommend is the same thing, is investing in something safe like the S&P 500 or the total market index fund, things like that. And you can look more into this, there's a lot of different strategies for investing, but I like to play it safe for now instead of getting too crazy with the meme stocks and everything. But hopefully some of that stuff helps, and definitely check out the links below if you want to learn more about Vanguard, Robinhood, and investing overall. And if you have any specific questions about that stuff, because I know it's a fairly new topic for most people, feel free to message me either on the Discord server, link below, or drop a comment, and I'll try to answer that stuff in the future. So that's pretty much it. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope some of this stuff helped you. A lot of this financial advice is just stuff that I've learned over the past few years, and I wanted to share some of it with you. Let me know in the comments any advice you have or any tips you think creators should know to help up their finance game. So with that being said, if you enjoy this video, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.